Welcome to the latest episode of the Undiscovered Metric with me, JJ Haig. Today I'm joined by Arno Witte, Senior Vice President of Data Science at Objective Platform, and Sven Meijer, CEO at Objective Platform, to discuss why having a holistic view of data is so important. Firstly, thank you both for joining me. Just before we get started, please could you just provide a short background into your role and career history?
Yeah, so my name is Arno Witte. I have a background in econometrics. And after that, I started working as a consultant. I had a lot of contact with clients, and at Objective Platform, I was responsible for basically creating the models we have, developing them, and basically developing the platform to make sure that these models are actually usable in practice.
Brilliant. It sounds like you're going to have a lot of great insights for us on the data side later on through the conversation. And Sven, if I could just ask the same of you.
Yes, thank you. I'm Sven. I'm the CEO of OP. Already with OP for many years. I have a lot of experience in big data. I'm working in that industry for a long time already. Leading OP as CEO for almost 2 years. I've always worked in more commercial roles, helping clients to get most out of the platform in really using it. And that's also my main focus as a CEO, to make clients very happy with the use of the analytics in daily basis.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today. Sven, I'm going to start with you. You would just be happy to provide a little bit of an introduction into OP. What are the goals, how you're working with clients, and sort of what are the objectives to help you achieve those goals?
Yeah, so we are a marketing measurement company. So what we do is we use all the data of the client to make models and give them insights into those models. We believe in full funnel measurement, so not only modeling the performance KPIs, but also adding the brand KPIs and give insights into the relation what brand is doing for the performance KPIs. For us, that's like the full funnel part in there. What we do is we automate this process. So instead of doing this once, we do this like every month. So we update the models for our clients every month. That helps them to not only learn one time what the media or marketing did in the last campaign, but constantly update those models and learn what the changes are, what the new things are, but also to test and experiment new things. The main part of OP as well is the tooling we provide. So make the historic data predictive for the future, because that's like the cool part, obviously, how to make it predictive and to make use of the historic data to predict the future, and also to optimize the part there, what you can do better. That's what we do for our clients, and that's actually the main thing that Objective Platform is doing.
Great. And so from that sense of having a look at all of that historical data, predictive data, and those models, why would you say that having a holistic view of data is so important? And then to go on from that, how do you sort of translate that into an impact for clients?
Yeah, holistic can have different meanings. So what is holistic? But for us, holistic is first of all to have all your media channels in there. So not only looking to the online channels, but also include TV, radio, out of home. So you don't have like separate worlds. But also for us, holistic is adding like brand KPI instead of only looking to the performance part. So that makes it very strategic as well. So you're not only looking to online or only not looking to the conversions online. You can actually see the full picture, what's online doing, but also how are the stores still doing and how is your brand doing. So that's like the holistic part. Giving insights to those kind of big strategic questions can help the more senior people in the marketing department, but also more the people that are responsible for one channel, but they also have access to their part and their data there. And that's what we do in Objective Platform. So we have like multiple insights, dashboards, and tooling where they can get access to. So how is my Facebook channel doing? But they can also make it comparable. So how can they make Facebook comparable with TV, for example.
Great. And just going to bring Arno into the conversation here a little bit as well. From a data scientist point of view, what does that look like for you guys on a daily basis when you sort of have that holistic overview, have all of these data channels and data insights? How are you then translating those for the clients and really helping them achieve their brand KPIs and goals?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that, of course, we have a lot of experience with modeling and we have a lot of knowledge on what you should do when modeling. But I think we are aware that the client has more knowledge on their business. So it's really important that it's collaboration. So that's already when we start working with the client, we always start with a blueprint, try to find out, okay, which KPIs are the most important ones? What kind of media did you already do? What are you maybe planning for the next year? And that's basically the starting point. Then we start modeling the KPIs of their interest, taking all the media into account, but also maybe factors like pricing or all the factors that actually influence that KPI. And then when that's basically in place, then I think there's two things that basically happen. So we update the models very frequently. So as fast as the data can enter our system, we can update the models. And we really help the client with using the models in practice. Because I think I have seen a lot of projects where we have like nice media mix models, or like the client already did that, but they never made improved decisions with those models. So I think our focus is in the beginning a lot on getting the models right, gaining the trust of the client, and then really using it in practice. So there should be decisions made based on those insights. Otherwise, I think we don't bring the value that we can.
And with all of these models that you're creating, is that why it's so essential to have the data immediately at your fingertips?
Yeah, exactly. So I think for our clients, it's really important, first of all, that the model is trusted. So there's a lot of attention to that. And then after that, it's important that it's very updated. So very often the most recent insights, they are the most important ones for the next campaign. So it's very important for our clients that the results are there fast. And you don't base your next decision on the models of last year, for example.
And Sven kind of touched a little bit on Facebook and Meta. And I know it's a metric that you guys, or a platform that you guys work closely with clients. How would you say that sort of a platform like Meta adds into sort of a client's marketing mix?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because it really depends on what you try to achieve with Meta. So I think we have seen different things that people want to achieve with Meta. So I think Meta can be important, for example, in building your brand. We have seen clients doing that successfully, but it can also drive your performance. So depending on your objectives and how you use the channel, we've seen basically having the different impacts. But I think the important thing for us is that we can measure on all those stages the impact of a certain campaign. So you can see if your last campaign drove any, for example, traffic to your website, or if it actually brought conversions to the product types that you are advertising.
And are there any specific sort of metrics or insights that you think that clients and customers should focus on, or things that your teams really dial into when sort of adding this back into sort of the holistic view of data, or for your modeling, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think in general, for the holistic view, it's important that the channels are comparable. So you can, of course, look at the metrics like the impressions, the reach, or the clicks coming from your ads. But in general, I think it's even more important that we have the right mappings and the right sort of conventions between the different channels. So if you identify the campaigns that you did, you can also identify maybe the campaign types. So was it a performance-based campaign, or was it like a more brand building campaign? Or was it like a product communication campaign? So basically identifying that and identifying the products maybe that you advertised. And if you do that very consistently over all the different channels, including, of course, Meta, then you make it way more comparable when you want to make the more holistic media decisions. I would always recommend starting with that. And then, of course, you can deep dive later also in the more nitty-gritty information points, like which devices did you target, which target audiences, more specific impressions, for example.
naming conventions seems to be something that comes up quite a lot throughout this series, and a lot of people that we speak to you've got all of these different platforms and they're all named slightly differently. Reach may mean something slightly different in Google as it does to Meta. Is that a challenge that you see on a daily basis, or how do you sort of overcome that when you're creating these models?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge that our clients have, and it's a challenge that we also really had when we started modeling and also updating these models really fast. Then that soon becomes the bottleneck. And I think there's two things that you can do. Yeah, of course, you can make the conventions so that everyone follows them internally. But in practice, we also know that it's practically impossible to get everyone follow your recommendations on the conventions. Some clients have that maybe better in process than others. But I think one thing that we can do is really mapping that data and making that really easy. So basically what we did is all the input data, they can have their own format, they can have their own conventions, basically, and we map them all to the same convention. So we basically provide our clients with mapping tools where they can remap things to the conventions that we use in the models. And that process, I think, if you streamline that, I think that's maybe the biggest time saver in these kind of processes.
And do you think that's one thing that, as the number of platforms grows, we did some research last year that CMOs now operating with sort of 10 different data sources, some up to 14, compared to sort of 6 pre-COVID. Do you think this is now an essential journey that they need to go on at the start of this, or can they retrofit these sort of naming conventions and mapping later on?
Yeah, of course, you can always do it later on, but it's usually better if you do it from the source. So making sure that everyone knows the conventions, making sure they actually do them. But I think also what we find in practice is that if you start having these kind of mapping tools in place, it's also easier to identify which things are outside of the mapping rules. So we also identify what falls outside of the conventions, and then we can directly bring that back to the people that make the tags, for example, or that make the conventions. So I think having that feedback loop in there will save a lot of work in the future. Yeah, but it's always possible to map things back. But yeah, basically you want to avoid that if you want to keep your models and data up to date.
Great. And something I just wanted to touch on with you, Sven, is there seems to be a big industry debate between MMM and MTA, multi-touch attribution. Where do you sit on this, and why does it seem that people are leaning towards automated MMM more so than MTA now?
Yeah, so first of all, we do both. So we come from MTA, so we still have a very strong MTA model, and I still believe that MTA can be very, very powerful for organizations. So I'm absolutely not a disbeliever of that. But what we see now with automated MMM, that it gives more strategic insights as well. So that's a really important one. So you can, for example, answer, I think, the $1 million question, do we have to invest more in brand or performance? That's a very strategic question, but it's also a very important question. Also with automated MMM, it gives all kinds of opportunities to test campaigns and as well to compare Facebook very well with TV for KPI sales, but as well for brand KPIs. Those are very interesting topics for most of the big advertisers. I believe that there isn't one good answer. I think it's based on the business questions you have and also where you are in data maturity, if you should go for MTA or MMM. Obviously, there is a lot of third-party cookie data missing nowadays. So tracking the views of display is getting more difficult. So the value of that, it's nowadays way better to measure in an automated MMM. So there you actually miss a big part in MTA. But when you have a high data maturity, the value of MTA can still be very, very big, I believe. Although we are a big fan of automated MMM, we see that for most marketeers, it's easier for them to work with it, with the results, and they can achieve more and bigger results with it. And that's also very helpful. That's why we are a big fan there.
And for a client or a marketer that's coming to you or looking to start those sort of first few steps into creating an automated MMM sort of model and using those insights, what would be the sort of 3 things that you would say to them, the advice from you guys to say, actually, this is what you need to do before you even get to the stage of delivery?
Like, we need data. That will not be a surprise. So the first question is always, do we have the data available? We need some historic data. Those are things we need. That's one. I think the second point is more for them. What are the business questions they want to solve? And that's kind of really, really important, because that should be very clear, because they also have a way to evaluate the success of your MMM. So when you have a very clear business questions, you can as well track the progress and how well you're doing that. Yeah, and the third and last point is you need some people inside that can do the work and that can also really work with the insights. We always see with clients when there is like one ambassador already, you just need one person that understands what modeling is and they understand how to use it. They actually make a big difference. And you need some people there to help them as well. Yes.
And that having that brand ambassador or that sort of champion of data and modeling, would you say that shows a level of sort of high data maturity in a business, or how can people sort of develop that data maturity that they want to have but sort of know that they're not quite there yet?
Yeah, for me, it's maybe not even always about data maturity, but maybe Arno has a different opinion about that. But for me, it's more about, okay, when this is the model outcome, we give like insights in different CPOs, make them comparable, for example, but also how the CPOs are developing over time. And then you can deep dive in, okay, different campaign types or campaigns, and then it's like translating that to knowledge how to use that internally. So we have customer success programs around that, but you still see that is more the knowledge that you need. It's not for me about real understanding the data or somebody that's really deep diving into the data, but more people that really understands how model works and how they can use it as well. So that's why are we a big fan of automated MMM? When you do a one-time model, you also have to understand that the results you get, there the journey starts. It starts, okay, what are the results? How are we going to test them? How are we going to work with them? And you need people that understand that instead of going to use those results as that's the real world nowadays. That's not the case, and that's the knowledge you need from my point of view.
Yeah, I think you touch a very important point, is that of course you need people that understand the data, that the data needs to be correct, obviously, but I think in general you need to be ready to make decisions based on the outcomes. So I think when the outcomes are there, then yeah, basically like Sven told, then the journey starts. So you start basically translating the outcomes of the model into actions. So if you have your next media scenario plan, let's say, you want to see what the impact will be on the KPIs that you modeled. So if I carry out this plan, how much brand value would increase? How much traffic can I expect? How much sales do I get? If those results are not there and not in the format that people can actually make decisions on them, then I think we need to readjust basically. So you need the tooling to fit to the business processes that are already there. I've often seen that, yeah, with the results of the model, you cannot change the way people work. So you need to adapt to that. And maybe, yeah, over time, if there's like a need to change something, that's possible. But I think in general, the insights should be fitting to the way decisions are made. And if that's not in that form, in the right format, then yeah, I think the impact is less big than as it could be. So yeah, I think that is the most important thing.
And is that a common pitfall that people make in terms of they're not ready to action the insights that they've got, or they don't fit into the business processes, or are people pretty open once they get those insights to really sort of drive and use those?
Well, I think people are sometimes afraid. Oh, now I bring in modeling, and now they are going to tell me how the last couple of years the media investments were, and when something was like negative, then people will also look negative to that. But that's not the way we are working, at least. It's really working together with the client to make the most out of it. Personally, I don't see that these are pitfalls of clients. Most of the clients that start using objective platform, they are quite ready for it, and they know what to expect, and we also help them with that at the start of the process. But you still see that some advertisements are a little bit maybe afraid about it, and that shouldn't be, because there are always learnings historically, and I think especially I always say we have to test and learn with MMM modeling. Well, we had COVID. That was like the worst test we could have. It was a terrible time, but from modeling perspective, very interesting. A lot of things changed, so we can actually create a lot of learnings out of that time, which advertisers can use nowadays to use media more effectively. So that's very interesting as well.
Brilliant. And speaking of COVID, we sort of seems that we're coming out of that sort of COVID era of advertising and moving into the sort of the next sort of phase with those learnings, as you touched upon. Are there any things that you both see over the next 12 to 18 months that marketers and advertisers should really be focusing on? Any trends that you think are going to get bigger and bigger that people need to start reacting to now rather than sort of waiting?
Yeah, I think in general, you see like already, for example, Meta and Google, they are really focused on MMM. So I think people will at some point notice like, okay, maybe like the holistic channel decisions, I cannot really make them without an MMM. So I think people will notice that in the coming period. And that shift will go faster than it already is going now. So that's I think one thing that we see coming. And then of course, when you have those kind of techniques, then it also makes sense to shift more to the upper funnel KPIs, as those techniques are more useful to also bring that into the action. So yeah, I see a bright future on the automated MMM side. So that's also why we, of course, heavily focused on that part in the last periods. But I think that will. I think I already see basically that the shift is already being made, but I think it will go faster in the coming periods.
Yeah, I think brands as well. I think that's even for smaller companies, brands will get more important, or maybe they are not thinking about brand, but steering your mid funnel instead of only looking to the low funnel. To steer your mid funnel very good, to create more value out of media, but also for the big advertisers, driving brand is so important. But in some countries the TV inventory is really full, so yeah, how are you going to drive your brand when it's getting very hard to invest in TV? What are the other channels? So we see that some clients are very successful on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and that absolutely work for driving brands as well. But is that the future for building a brand, or are there any new or platforms coming up in the future? I think that's a big topic, and yeah, I think still when you talk about MMM, it gives people a little bit the feeling that they receive a PowerPoint with a lot of numbers, and then they know exactly what happened like historically. I think the predictive part is way more interesting for advertisers, and that's also the part that's growing. So predictive analytics or AI, we also use nowadays AI for that, to make like all kind of calculations to the future. What is the best way to optimize media across channels for different KPIs? That's absolutely the future, and for us that's a really big topic where we are working on very hard with a big team as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. One final final question for you both is, are there any things that you would want to pass on, any information that you'd want to pass on for someone starting out in their career in sort of data and analytics, or some advice that you would like to have given to your younger self?
Interesting question. Shall I start?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like really start from the business question. If you like I have a background in econometric, of course, but if you start from the econometrics, you will probably don't make the best model. So really listen to the business, what they say, what their challenges are, and then I think also you would be more ready for the challenges that are coming up. So we just talked about what we expect for the future. Usually people in the business, they know what they expect from the future, and then we can adapt as econometricians to model that truth, basically. And I think maybe for the more technical people out there, I think the Bayesian statistics part, I think that's like crucial in the current world, where you model, of course, on all the data you have, but in some areas you're very certain, in some you're maybe not so certain. Being able to adjust to that, but also being able to adjust to, for example, experiment outcomes. For example, if you blend MTA and MMM into one model, then the Bayesian statistics, they play a crucial role, I would say. And I wish we started from the beginning with that.
Yeah, I'm less technical, and I also consider myself still very young. But to answer your question, for me, I think this is like we are in a great period of time, and yeah, I simply love this industry we are in, but also where you are in, working with data, but also working with marketing. I think marketing is a very cool industry, but combining those and help marketeers on a daily basis to do their job better by make use of data. Yeah, for me, this is great. So I would say I just work in this industry for a little bit more than 8 or 9 years. Yeah, the big advice I would give myself, I had to start in this industry directly instead of the things I did before in a boring financial world, which is really boring. There's a lot of data there as well, but it's really boring. And this is really a cool industry. So I think the best advice I can give to people, yeah, you have to start in this because this is really cool. This is growing and it's only getting better over the years. Yeah, when you want to have really good advice, then you have to ask Arno. And I think the things he's saying, he is way more technical and he knows where the technical part will move to the coming years. Learn Python. I think when you can do Python, yeah, you're great.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. It sounds like you're both very optimistic for the future of marketing, which is a really positive note to end on as well. I think we're in a really exciting time.
We are, and marketing is great, I think, and it's developing really fast, and that's great to work in.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you. You too.
Thank you.